Those middle of the night dumps. Those Biden dumps are powerful. When Biden dumps, it's just amazing.
Ooh, man.
Biden's massive dumps are just the power of a Biden dump is just. Let's go to take number one from this Substack article, which is going to bake your bagels, cook your muffins, toast your muffins, do whatever you need to do to your muffins. Read this article and your muffins will be toasted. Vote pattern analysis in Substack. He says anomalies in vote counts and their effects on election 2020. It's a quantitative analysis. It's very mathematical. Don't worry. I'm going to tease it out. Statistics was my thing. Took it repeatedly in experimental psychology and in my MBA program. Well, okay, you went to school. Nobody cares. Just saying, it's not the math. I'll decipher for you. Don't worry about it. Let's go to number one, where he describes this ratio versus vote count thing. But by the way, I've never done 9 screenshots ever from an article. That's how important this article is. And these are going to be long, but they are worth your time. He talks about the guy who wrote this, it's vote pattern analysis, talks about his report. He says he's only relying on publicly available data. He looked at 8,954 individual vote updates, we'll call these voter dumps, and differences in vote totals for each candidate between successive changes to the running vote totals, colloquially referred to as dumps or batches. Listen to this. We discover a remarkably consistent mathematical property. There's a clear inverse relationship between difference in candidates' vote counts and the ratio of the vote counts. In other words, it's not surprising to see vote updates with large margins, and it's not surprising to see vote updates with large ratios of support between the candidates. But it is surprising to see vote updates which are both. Now, again, I think I translated that preemptively with my tease and follow-up. You all get it. Yeah. That makes sense, Joe? You got ratios that are high in small numbers, but you also don't get big vote differences in huge ratios.
Right.
You do in Iraq pre U.S. takeover there. We freed the Iraqis. Saddam Hussein, Joe, he aced the ratio and vote difference thing. He aced it. Joe, he pulled 99.9%. It was amazing. What a job. What a campaigner out there knocking on doors. Hey, it's Saddam Hussein. You want to vote? We love 99%. He pulled that off magically. There's another way to describe this. But the statistics will make sense if you understand what I just said, which Joe approved of and Paul. So I'm the ratio versus the vote. You get that. Only Saddam gets 99.9%. But here's another way to describe this. As sample sizes grow in statistics and science, you traditionally see experimental effects or the size of them dissipate. Let me simply translate that for you. Whether it's experimental psychology, whether it's the effect of school choice, as the sample size gets smaller, you see huge effects. I'll give you a perfect example. You take a drug for, let's say, cancer. Some drug, you give it to one person, only one. This person is extremely susceptible to the effects of that. The person's magically cured in 6 months. You're like, we found a cure for cancer. No, you didn't. You found a cure for that person. Now you start giving the drug, Joe, to 10, 100, 1,000, 30,000 people. And all of a sudden you find that drug for cancer may have cured that person in only 10, 20% of cases because of some genetic difference in the population. As sample size increases, experimental effects get smaller and smaller and smaller. Why would we want the effect to get smaller and smaller and smaller? Because we want to make sure the drug works, that it's not some unique effect on one person. The same thing happens with vote counts. As the vote tallies get larger and larger and larger, those ratios should decrease and decrease and decrease. You shouldn't get 99.9% Saddam Hussein numbers anywhere. You dig? I know you do. It's the smartest audience in the business. Now that you have that background in Statistics 101, the distribution of statistical effects over larger populations, let's go to screenshot number 2. About the 4 most puzzling dumps. This is great. Oh, this piece is epic. Here's the four most puzzling dumps where the ratios were super high and the vote counts were high too. Let's go to number one. Quote, an update in Michigan listed as of 6:31 a.m. Eastern time on November 4th showed 141,258 votes for Biden and 5,968 for Trump. Wow. Look at that. Saddam numbers. Saddam. Must have had some great campaign signs at Biden. Here's number two. A 3:42 a.m. batch that came in on November 4th, which shows 143,379 votes for Biden and 25,163 for Trump. There we go. That's Saddam. He's at it again. That's incredible. Knocking on doors, that campaign sign. Vote Saddam. Saddam 2020. What the hell? Here's another one in Georgia, 1:34 a.m., November 4th. 136,000 for Biden, 29,115 for Trump. Woo! Man, that Biden was a campaign. Biden magic everywhere, Joe. Here's the last one. An update in Michigan. Oh, this one's going to cook. This one's going to cook your, we're running out of food items to cook. Cook your blueberry pie. It was a good one. We ate that up. 54,000 votes at 3:50 a.m. for Biden, 4,700 for Donald Trump. Weird. That Biden magic, man. Those middle of the night dumps. Those Biden dumps are powerful. When Biden dumps, it's just amazing.
Ooh, man.
Biden's massive dumps are just the power of a Biden dump is just, it's like roses. The aroma's everywhere. You know what's really weird about these Biden dumps? That the differences in these Biden dumps were enough to turn the whole election. Let's go to the next screenshot from this Substack piece. You just have to read this. This one's a little shorter. He says, we find that the extent of the respective anomalies here are more than the margin of victory in all three states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia, which collectively represent 42 electoral votes. Gee, that's kind of strange. Making lines here so I don't forget any of these. Folks, he goes on in the next screenshot here to again discuss the critical takeaway. You can have big ratios. I can't say this enough. And you can have big skews in votes in liberal areas. But big ratios and big skews, that's kind of weird. Those are like Kim Jong-un type numbers. 99.99% of the vote is in, and Kim Jong-un won every one. Crazy time. Let's go back to this piece. Genius. There's also a number of general intuitions upon which we draw to direct our research. This is what I was talking. This is why I talked about the sample size thing when it comes to the effect of drugs or school choice or anything. Big sample sizes matter. So you make sure it's not a unique effect to one person. He says, quote, in general, the larger the sample size, the smaller we expect the deviation from the population average to be. Again, experimental effects tend to go down as population sizes go up. Everybody got that? Simple statistical tautological statement. While anomalous vote ratios may occur, the statistical chance of anomalous margins goes down as the size of the sample or vote update goes up. Again, you have a small town, you can have a high ratio. You have a huge city, you're not going to get 99% of the vote. Something's up. That's what he means by the size of the effect goes down as the size of the sample goes up. Takeaway. The basic intuition here is big margins are one thing, and so are super skewed results. But it's weird to have them both at the same time, as they generally become inversely related as either value increases. That's a fancy way of saying what I just told you. You can have big ratios, or you can have big margins, but you can't have big margins with big ratios. I can't say this enough. I'm not trying to hammer you over the head with it with my gavel here. I'm trying to speak to all the lunatics that watch this show on the left that you're not curious about this. Of course you're not. You're in the media. They're not curious about anything but propaganda.
You just heard Dan Bongino.